Hi, welcome to Bleav in Clemson Football with Levon Kirkland. I am Will Vandervort. Glad you guys could be with us. And as you can see, we got our buddy back in the chair over here as he's over to my right. Levon, it's good to see your face, man. I know last week a little bit of car issues. You were in Sumter.
Yeah.
What happened there?
I'm embarrassed to tell anybody what happened. It was all my fault. Let's put it that way. It was my fault.
Okay.
I'm actually driving out of my sister's driveway. She tells me to make sure you back up in the grass and then pull out. It was night. So I backed up a little bit. I'm like, oh, I got it. And I went to drive forward, and the right front of my SUV went into this little ditch. And I'm like, holy cow. And she comes outside. She's like, what happened? And my brother-in-law is an old country guy.
Yeah.
You know, how reliant good old country men are. They got something in the truck, their pickup truck. And he basically towed me out. I didn't have to call for a tow truck or anything like that.
Well, that was good.
Yeah. So it was funny. Kind of laughed, man.
That's all you can do, man. At least you own it. You know, that's the thing.
Yeah, I definitely own it. Yeah, it was definitely on me.
Well, hey, we're glad you're back, and we're glad everybody else is joining us. If you're seeing us on YouTube, on the Clemson Insider YouTube, please give us a thumbs up, leave a comment. We definitely appreciate that. If you're seeing us on Facebook, do the same. Leave us some comments. We'll have Levon. If you got questions about this week's game against Florida State, Levon will be happy to answer those. I'll do the same, and we'll try to get whatever answers you need and questions you want answered. We'll do the best we can. So if you can do that, we'll try to do that. At the end of the show, we got a lot to go over today. We're going to review a little bit of the game last week, but not spend too much time on the game against Florida Atlantic. We're going to get some news. Clemson's got a new kicker. We're going to talk about that. And then, of course, we're going to spend a lot of time breaking down this Clemson-Florida State showdown. This is a big game for Clemson. One I think everybody has been waiting for the last year, whether you're in Clemson or whether you're in Tallahassee. You've been waiting for this game. This is the game in the ACC this season. And then, of course, we'll do our Pick Six segment at the end, and then, of course, talk to all you guys as well. We appreciate you being with us, and we also want to say we appreciate our sponsors, the Clemson Insider, the most complete coverage of Clemson athletics and recruiting. Go over to the ClemsonInsider.com and see all the articles that we got going on over there. I can say we because I'm the senior writer, and we greatly appreciate you guys to go over there and check us out. Also, I'd like to say thanks to Tip It Back Sports Grill, the place to watch all your college football and NFL action this season. Tip It Back Sports Grill is located at 215 Pelham Road in Greenville, South Carolina. And then, as always, we want to say thanks to our main sponsors, the reason we have this podcast, and that is the guys and gals over at betonline.com. As you know, football season is back, and BetOnline is your number one information source for all your sports wagering info, with all the up-to-the-minute stats, news, scores, and matchups and breakdowns. You can get the latest odds, spreads, and totals from the NFL and college football at your fingertips with BetOnline's real-time updates, statistics, news, and odds. From Week 1 all the way to the college football playoff and Super Bowl, BetOnline gives you access to the best football promotions and contests available anywhere online. Head on over to the website today. Use your mobile device to get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code Bleav, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Again, that's Bleav, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus. Bet online, where the game starts. And Levon, we're going to start, and we're going to talk about the game that was last week of Florida Atlantic. A huge game for Clemson in the sense of they needed to get some things right. Dabo's whole premise last week was, I wanted to see us play a clean game. I want to see our defense dominate, create turnovers, and we want to win the turnover battle. All of that happened last week, and that was a good thing to see, don't you think?
Oh, no question about that. But I got to tell you one thing before we really get started. I fell in love. I'm in love now.
I didn't know you were in love.
Yes.
Wow.
With college football.
Well, you've always been in love with college football. What are you talking about?
I really love college football now because there's a lot of parity.
Yeah.
Who's the best team in the nation now? I don't think anybody really knows.
It sure ain't Georgia.
It's not. I'm telling you, it's not Alabama. It's not, normally
Not
Clemson,
Michigan.
not Michigan, maybe not Ohio State.
Not Florida
we
State.
We don't really know.
No.
So I'm in love with college football again. She went into a weight room. She got a makeover. She's looking good.
Man.
I'm in love with college football now. But as far as the Clemson game is concerned last week, I thought it was a pretty good, clean game. The Tigers did what they needed to do. It was good to see the defense come out with a score. I told everybody last year, when you were down on my man Wiggins, what about now?
Mm-hmm.
Remember, Will, the Wake Forest game? Everybody was like, "Oh my God, he's terrible! Oh my God."
We got the worst cornerback.
I told you to hold on for a second. He's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, he's a player.
He's a baller, man.
He's a baller. And I thought that Clemson did what they needed to do against that type of opponent. They came out, they scored a bunch of points. They got turnovers. They looked a lot better than against Charleston Southern.
Look, your good friend Deion Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the game, and I hate to bring it up. I know you hate it when I bring this game up. You know where I'm going, but you remember the Punt-Rooski game.
Yes.
And Deion calls his shot, right? He says, "I'm going to take the punt, and I'm taking it over there for a touchdown."
I was out there. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I hate to bring it up because I know you.
Yeah.
You were on that. You were one of those players trying to catch him.
I think I was the first one who dove at his legs.
So anyway, I bring that up because our boy Wiggins called his shot before the game. He told his teammates, he says, "Hey, I'm gonna get an interception, and I'm gonna take it to the house today."
Oh, that's amazing.
And he did it on the fourth play of the game, and took it to the house. And you got to give him credit. It was great deception on how he disguised himself, made himself look invisible, like if you want to say it. And the quarterback for Florida Atlantic never saw him, and he just jumps in front of the route and boom, takes it to the house.
Well, that's just being a heady kind of player, a guy who understands that you got to play the game a little bit. You can't just show them exactly what you're in, because most quarterbacks, they'll kill you if you do that. Mm-hmm. So you just kind of did a good job of disguising, making the quarterback think otherwise, and you picked them off. Nice pick, nice touchdown. Really, that's the kind of way you want the game to get started.
Absolutely, it is, and it was a great start for the Tigers. And then they just really kind of just put it on cruise control. I think from that point, I mean, it just really dominated the game. It set the tone. The defense forced 4 turnovers, had a couple of sacks. I know they didn't do much on third down against Clemson. So you're getting 3 and outs, and you're getting off the field, and 3 and outs are just as good as turnovers, in my opinion.
No question.
And so one thing that's where they've been much better with Wes Goodwin this year is getting off the field. And even in the Duke game, they had 4 or 5 3 and outs during the game. And right now, I think Clemson is second in the ACC in third down defense. Mm-hmm. And I think it's somewhere around 23% or something like that. And that's what you want. You want that to be in the 20s. You don't want it to get in the 30s. You want to keep it down in the 20s, because that means you're getting off at a consistent rate, getting off the field. So if you don't get a turnover, you at least do that, and you give the ball back to your offense immediately.
Well, yeah, and you stop momentum. I mean, anytime you can stop the offense and get them out in 3 downs, that means now you got the momentum again. Mm-hmm. And you got the ball again. So that's always a plus. I think they're doing a better job of that. I tell you what, Woodaz has really become a playmaker. He's really doing a good job. And we said before, he's the kind of guy that you don't really have to substitute another defensive back when it's a third down. He's capable of playing that slot guy or out there in space a little bit. And he's doing a really good job making some good plays. So the defense, the Duke game was it's a disappointing. I think they've been coming back, but I'm telling you, they got a task this week.
They got a task, and we're going to get to that here in just a minute. But I just want to also flip it over. We talked about the defense and the way they played. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about the offense, and I thought Cade Klubnik, his best game. I thought overall where his decision-making was good. He looked comfortable in the pocket. He didn't seem nervous at all. It seemed like the game slowed down a little bit to him, which was the thing I think the coaches were really stressing, like, hey, some things are moving too fast for him sometimes. It looked like it slowed down in that game, and he looked really comfortable throwing the football that I noticed. It seemed like he wasn't worried about what was going on in front of him. He was just stepping back, looking at his reads, seeing what he needed to do. He looked like he had full command of the offense really for the first time. I thought it was his best game, and I'm even saying it was better than the ACC championship game. I thought from a standpoint of what you're looking for out of your quarterback, it was his best game, I thought.
Yeah, I thought he played a pretty clean game. I thought that he was patient, and it seemed like before, and then even in the Tennessee game, the Duke game, he seems to panic a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to, if he don't see the first read or so, he's scrambling out to his right. And then that kind of cuts the field in half a little bit. Now you only got that one side to go through. It's kind of hard to throw the ball across from your right side back to the left side. So he's sitting in the pocket, and that's good. And I'm going to tell you, he's going to have to continue to make really good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
He has to understand, hey, I'm a pretty good athlete. When it's time for me to take off, there's nothing there. There's nothing wrong with running the ball and also being a quarterback. That's the kind of thing that really drives a defensive team crazy. When you have a quarterback who can get out of trouble, he has that ability to do that. He just has to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I don't see my first, second read. Hey, I'm getting out there. I'm going to pick a hole, and I'm going to scramble, and I'm going to help move us forward. And if he can continue to do that, he will get better as the season goes along.
Yeah, I agree. And then also we no surprise because we were told a lot about this guy, but Tyler Brown, a big game, a second week in a row where he's made big plays. He had 2 touchdowns in this game, had a 44-yard punt return as well. Yes. Second week in a row, he's made a big punt return. This is what we heard and coming out of camp about this guy. You actually saw it in person. This guy's a playmaker. He can do some things. Having him do that is big because now it puts it on tape. You got what Bo Collins can do. We know everybody knows what Antonio Williams can do. Now defenses got to think, okay, if you see 6 and 10 on the field at the same time, along with 80, now you just can't double team 80, or you just can't double team. Right. You can't double team 10, right? 0. You got to now pay attention to what 6 is doing. That's going to open up things for that. It was getting him to emerge, Tyler Brown to emerge and make plays like he did the other day, catching that pass in the back of the end zone and running into the goalpost and hanging onto the ball. Coaches see that on other teams. Defensive coordinators see that. They're like, okay, that's a ball player.
Yeah, and I think the one thing he does is his yards after the catch, as we refer to as yak. Mm-hmm. And so he's the kind of guy that he catches the ball with his quickness, he can make additional yards. And again, that's another weapon you can put out there that you can use the whole field with. Now you're going to start cooking with grease because now this is the time you do play action pass. You can roll out. You can do some things with him that I think in years past, or recent past, you really couldn't do. Now we got that guy that can get in the slot and get that first down, but not only that, can make that 80-yard run.
Yeah, and that's what he gives you and what he provided last week. And now I just think it's good to have that on tape, and it shows what he can do, and he's done it consistently. He's just not a flash in the pan. Mm-hmm. Florida State's going to have to pay attention to number 6 this week, because if they don't, he's going to hurt them, and that's going to help 80, and that's going to help 0. And it's going to help the Clemson offense, and it'll help number 1 Will Shipley, and it'll help number 7.
Help the running game, everything. Now you just can't load the box up anymore.
Exactly.
You just can't load the box up, and I think also now in your red zone, you can spread it out a little bit, even more so, because when you condense the box like you do, only thing defensive teams are going to do is they're going to say, "Hey, let's load it in there." They're not going to run the ball on us. I think it's important now, especially when you get in the red zone, especially when from that 10-yard line, until you got to be able to spread people out. Mm-hmm. Running the ball up the middle is just not going to always get it done.
No, it's not. All right, so one of the things that also came out of the game was the fact that Clemson's struggling with a kicker.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Gunn missed a 31-yard field goal. Bad, looked like me with the golf club. Just really hit it bad to the left. I mean, it was bad. And then missed an extra point also to the left. Did both in the first quarter. Now he came back, made the rest of his extra points from then on. But it was obvious
He's
that I
supposed
think
to make
if
this extra
Clemson
points.
if Clemson got into a situation where they were going to kick a field goal, they were going to go for it probably. So it got to the point where, you can't risk always taking points off the board. And so Dabo Swinney did something on Sunday where somebody mentioned to him, hey, coach, do you know about this? You know about Jonathan White's that he's enrolled in school and he's got a year of eligibility. Dabo's like, what? So you guys can understand who Jonathan White's is. He was the backup last year to BT Potter. Well, he graduated, got his degree, played 4 years. He decided he was going to go ahead and give up football and move on to his life. And so Dabo just assumed he was already working, that he wasn't in school or anything until somebody told him, hey, he's enrolled in a master's program at Clemson. He's in Charleston, but, he's doing stuff online. He's technically a student. You can bring him back. And so they talked to compliance. They got it worked out. Dabo calls old Jonathan up and says, hey, what are you doing on Saturday?
You know what's so funny is this is like what it is in the NFL sometimes.
That's what it reminded me of.
That's what it reminded me of too. And I'm thinking man, if your kicker or somebody is not doing a good job, you go into free agency and get a guy and bring him on, or can you start trying out guys in the middle of the season? And so this situation reminds me of a guy who's retired, who's moving on, who's playing PlayStation, and they're just like, hey, do you want to play? Give it one more time. Give it one more try. We need some help. It's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, why not? The thing is, Jonathan is about to start a job in like 2 weeks in New York.
I know.
He's already got an apartment up there and everything. Yeah. So he's got to call his boss and says, hey, you mind if you hold on to that job maybe for about 5 more months or so? I'm going to stick here. I just got asked
5 more weeks.
Or 5 more
weeks. If he doesn't keep well.
Well, I think he's going to, though, and here's why. So I talked to BT Potter earlier today, and after everything went down, and BT was telling me that, hey, this guy, he's like, hey, look, John, first of all, they're best friends. And he says, I'll tell you something. He's like, John can kick it. He's like, the only reason he didn't play is because I was out in front of him, and doing my thing. But he says he's accurate. He said he kicks it through the middle of the post. He's like, he's always accurate. He says he doesn't have like that kind of leg like he has where he can kick it from 60, but he can kick it from 52. He says he can make it from 52. So if he can make it from 52 and he's accurate, why not? And I think Dabo I remember Dabo years past talked about how accurate he was and how good he was in practice and stuff. He did play in some games and did kick a field goal. He played in 5 games in his career, and he's kicked in front of the big crowds and stuff. So he knows what he's doing. It's not like this will be the first time he's ever, went out and kicked in front of the big crowd, but it'll be the first time he goes out as a starter because he played behind BT Potter for 4 years. And, when you play behind the Clemson's all-time leading field goal kicker, you're not going to get any playing time. And so, it doesn't mean he's bad. It just means, the guy in front of him was great. So
we'll soon find out.
We're going to find out. He is Clemson's new kicker. I asked Dabo in the press conference, so is he going to be the kicker? And he pretty much says, yes, he'll be the regular kicker. They will use Gunn for long field goals. And then for like 50, like 55 plus, things like that. And then because Dabo says Gunn kicks it like a kickoff, that's probably his problem. So he's kind of perfect. That's perfect for long field goals. And then he'll do the kickoff still because Gunn, I think he's had 15 or 16 kickoffs, and only 1 was returned. All the rest went through the end zone. So you want to keep that weapon.
The kickoff guy because you can't really. It's difference between being a kickoff guy and being a field goal.
Absolutely, it is. And when you got a guy who can kick the ball in the end zone consistently like that, then that's the guy you want kicking off. And so he's going to stay and do that. So he'll still have his role on the team. And Dabo said, just so people know, it's like Dabo says, it's not like I don't believe in Robert Gunn. He said, but sometimes you need to take he said, sometimes you got to take a step back as a competitor and maybe breathe, see what you're doing wrong. And, and then kind of try to correct it and get better. But if you're like the guy and you got to go out there and kick, that pressure's put on you to get it done. So maybe this is a chance for him to get better and not feel so much pressure on him. So that way, when he comes back next year, he'll have this under control. He reminded everybody of Chandler Catanzaro, which I think I did the same thing a few weeks ago on this podcast.
Right.
Chandler Catanzaro was bad. He was bad his freshman year, people, if you don't remember. And Dabo brought up how many kicks Chandler Catanzaro missed in 2010 that ultimately cost them games. And he's like, hey, but look what that guy did the last 3 years. That guy made big-time kicks, and he became an All-American. And before he left Clemson, he was Clemson's all-time leading scorer. So he's like, I'm not giving up on Robert Gunn. He says Robert Gunn's the most talented kicker he's ever seen. He says, and that's including B.T. Potter and Chandler Catanzaro. So if he's saying that, knowing he's had those guys behind him, but in front of him, then okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because they have produced some darn good kickers in their time at Clemson.
And he probably knows better than anybody because I'm gonna tell you my thing about kickers is, does he make it right now? I don't really care about his potential for later. Can he make the kicks right now that we need? At this point in time, he doesn't seem to be that guy.
Right.
But, as a good leader, you don't just totally destroy someone's goals or aspirations. You try to make sure you're uplifting him, but also let him know that, those field goals are precious and we got to get them. And right now, you're not really getting them in there. So we got to bring somebody in who can get them in there until you start getting your confidence. And kicking field goals, you talk about having to be very confident in what you're doing. And it seems like a very simple job, and you only got one job, but it's a pressure cooker.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. Especially if you got to kick that thing 50 yards out, you're on the hash. That's not easy.
Yeah, and he got the yips. I was told by a source that prior to the Duke game, he had a very rough practice. I won't say how rough. I'll keep that to myself. But it was a real rough practice, and I think that's where the yips came from. He got in his own head.
Oh, yeah.
And once an athlete gets the yips, it's
tough.
It's tough to get rid of them. It really is.
Well, David Treadwell, I used to always ask him, like, David, why were you so clutch? And his whole thing was the visualization of it. He visualized making kicks all the time. And maybe you got to go back to that, to seeing yourself performing at a great level. And if you could do that, maybe he can come back and kick some field goals. And, if he's as talented as Dabo Swinney's saying, it's just probably all in his head for right now.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of that, last night during the Monday night game, they showed Deshaun Watson sitting on the bench before the game with his visualization coach. So I'm going to ask you, Levon, did you have a visualization coach?
Yeah, that was me.
Listen, I understand, Deshaun, you got 200.
And the threat of, letting that guy get 100 yards or whatever. So I applaud him for having that. That's pretty cool. We didn't think about anything like that.
Yeah.
As far as having a coach to do it, you just kind of saw it yourself.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of cool if you want to pay somebody to do that. I mean, hey, why not?
Hey, each his own. Each his own. I know this guy ain't going to have one because I just look at that guy who's saying he's a visualization coach as that guy's just I don't know. I think of him as slimy. I'm like, dude, you're just getting money out of this guy. What are you actually doing?
I kind of believe in some of it. I mean, people have coaches, life coaches.
You got $270 million. You can do whatever you want to, I guess. But
yeah,
still.
You can do that. I'm surprised he don't have his own training staff on the sideline with him.
I'm just thinking
his own equipment guy.
But Levon, the way he played last night, he needs to fire his visualization coach. I'm gonna tell you because
he's a little rusty.
He's like, he had the interception right off the bat.
The interception wasn't his fault, though.
No, it wasn't. But still, it counts. He had the strip fumble. He had 2 personal fouls. What time was the last time you seen a quarterback? By the way, I'm applauding the officials here. Thank you
that never
for finally
happens.
calling the face mask on the quarterbacks doing that. And, so because me and you both defensive guys, and we get mad that the defense guy always gets called for it, but the offense guy never does.
Right.
And in this game, it was the other way around because remember early in the game, Pittsburgh got away with the face mask. And but hey, Deshaun, what are you doing, dude? Stop grabbing the face mask of defensive players.
Well, he's been doing it for
He did it at Clemson.
Yeah, he did it all the time. So
yeah, I know.
It's something that he's always done. He probably is not really aware of it. It's kind of like Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson carried the ball all the time.
Right.
All the time.
Palmed it, yeah.
Palmed it all the time. Bath is against the rules. He doesn't supposed to do it, but he did it, and he got away with it. So, same thing with Deshaun. I'm going to grab somebody's face mask. They're never probably going to call it. And they call it this time. It's kind of funny because, as you said before, they never do it.
They never do it. Called twice. And it cost the Browns points. Couldn't happen to a better team. In a better game.
Right.
As you can see, we're both very happy here today. Got my steel. Here it is right here. Got my steel.
Oh, yeah, we're extremely happy, yes.
We're extremely happy. So I know you Clemson fans may be out there pulling for Deshaun. I'm sorry. Well, I feel no empathy for him.
You really don't.
I don't. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and flip over to the game everybody wants us to talk about. And let's just be honest, man. This is the one we've been waiting for a while. Number 4, Florida State at Clemson, noon on ABC. I know the fans are like, oh, it's a noon game. Why couldn't it be night? But you know what? Clemson hasn't had very many night games, Levon. I went and did a story on it last week.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson's only had 19 games at night since 2015. Okay.
That's not a lot.
Or 2013, excuse me. That's not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not a lot at all. And you know how many day games they've had?
I imagine more.
Yeah,
how many?
44.
Wow.
So Clemson is in those games. They're 61-2 in those games. So they've won. Everybody's like, oh, but they don't play as well in the daytime. Well, they're 42-2 in daytime games. So they're winning 97% of the time. I think that's playing pretty good. Nobody else in the country can claim that. It's not like Clemson's LSU. It's not like Clemson's LSU, where LSU, it does affect LSU.
Right, yeah.
It does. It don't affect Clemson. And it doesn't affect you fans. You say it does, but it doesn't. You know why? Because you always show up. Yes. And I love about Clemson fans. You guys will be there. Just get there early. Don't get there right when the game starts now. The defense needs you there early this year, this game. They need you in. Yes. You need to be in your seats at 10 o'clock in the morning and have this place pumped and get this atmosphere going. I know you guys want it to be a night game, but hey, daytime in the Valley is just as intimidating. It can be just as, that orange is bright orange is shining down with the sun hitting it. It's loud. Florida State has not had a true road game this year. Come on, Boston College is not a true road game. Let's just call it like it is. There was nobody in that stadium. It was like going to a high school game, So this is going to be 80,000 people all pulling against them. By the way, for you Clemson fans, you're going to love this. Florida State's band is going to be in the upper deck.
Uh-oh.
No longer hear the stupid chant going. It'll have to come from the upper deck. So they're going to be up in the upper deck. Florida State, you can't complain because you've been doing this to everybody for years. So, you're going in the upper deck, Florida State. No longer are you in the west end zone over there on the field. So thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you get tired of hearing that tomahawk.
I hate it.
Thing.
Yeah, you don't hear it as much when it's in the upper deck.
No. No. But, this is a game that everybody's been anticipating, especially in the ACC. Who's going to come out on top, whether it be Clemson, Florida State. This is a game that everybody has been waiting for. I'm looking forward to seeing this game.
Oh,
I am. I think this is going to be a tremendous task for both teams.
Oh, I'm pumped about it.
I think this is if any year is going to be the year, this is going to be the year for Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
They've been taking it under the chin quite some time from Clemson. So if any year is the year that they are probably favored to win the game, they're supposed to win this game, this is the year. And I think we get a chance to see if Mike Novell is a good coach or not.
Yeah.
It's going to test his coaching skills. I mean, I know he's brought guys he has an experienced team. They got guys all over the transfer portal. If he doesn't get it done this time around, you got to kind of wonder.
Yeah, and let's just go ahead and last week they played Boston College, and I watched that whole game.
I watched that game too.
And they didn't look very well. And a lot of people, the one thing, first of all, I want to say this. If that was Clemson, the sky would be falling from the national media. It would be like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with Clemson? And you know what Florida State got? Well, they had a little bit of trouble. No, they had a whole lot of trouble at Boston College. I know you guys in the national media didn't watch it. That Boston College was supposed to get the ball back.
Right.
With 2 minutes to go in the game, but the kid grabbed the face mask and got their 18th penalty called on them.
Yeah. But I thought Boston College played pretty well.
They did, but they didn't play perfect. See, that's what people don't understand. Everybody thought Boston College, people who didn't watch the game, thought Boston College played this out of this world, blew your mind game.
Mm-hmm.
In a clean game, and Florida State played its worst game. In reality, they didn't. Boston College, they had bad turnovers that cost them, that allowed Florida State to score easy points. They had a school record 18 penalties in one game, 18 penalties. And those penalties were drive killers. On several drives, it killed them. It's not like they played out of their mind. And it's not like Boston College played their A game and Florida State played their B game. No, Boston College played a C game and was about to get the ball back to go beat Florida State.
Right. That's why I fell back in love with college football. Because I really believe now in college football, you really don't know. At one point in time, you kind of knew, this team is going to blow this team out, or this team is going to smash this team. But it's not really like that. And I watched the replay of that game, and Boston College had an opportunity, although they committed 19 penalties. Mm-hmm. But you got to give Florida State credit for going away and winning that game. Florida State, to me, they're pretty impressive. They are. They got a team. They really got some good guys on the outside that can get it done. Jordan Travis has been a veteran for a long time. And I'm telling you, the guy that you need to watch on offense is Trey Benson, the running back. He is, if Clemson doesn't bring a game type mentality, he can break loose some big games. They're going to have to really bum rush this guy to get him down. I really like him. Johnny Wilson on the outside, just a big, tall target. They can make it happen. Those guys are pretty good. And they got some skilled players. And their offensive line looks totally different than what they did before. They do a lot of play action. They're a physical team. They're a screen team.
Well, they're definitely a screen team.
Yeah, they're a screen. They will screen you to death. So Clemson has to really be on his A game. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of game that we always talk about. One team comes to play football, the other team better come to fight.
Right. Clemson found out against Duke that they just came to play football. Duke came for a fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think in this game, both teams are going to come for a fight because, first of all, I believe Florida State, there was a little bit overlooking Boston College. I do believe that. Yes. There was. Mm-hmm. It's human nature. It's hard to get up for every single game, every single week. And Clemson is looming. They're going to come into Clemson mad, angry. They're wanting to kick some butt. They want to take back this conference, all these things. They're tired of the 7-game losing streak to Clemson, all these things. On the other side, Clemson's going to come in mad and wanting to fight too because Clemson's like, we're not as bad as we look like we were at Duke. Right. And we've taken it out on the last 2 opponents we played, and you guys didn't even give us a second thought. Mm-hmm. So we're going to come out here. We're going to show the world just who we are kind of mentality. That's what Clemson's bringing to the table. This is going to be a dogfight. If you guys don't think this isn't going to be a dogfight, if you're a Florida State fan and you're thinking you're going to go into Clemson and roll Clemson, not going to happen. If you're a Clemson fan and you think you're going to come into Death Valley and roll Florida State, not going to happen. This is going to be a dogfight. These two teams know each other very well. It's like an old NFL division game. These guys
back
know.
in the day.
Yeah. They know
it's really
each
the
other
team
so well.
it's really the team. It should play this way. You never know, but it's the team that can take a hit and get back up and deliver a hit.
Exactly.
That's the team that's going to win. It's not because I think both teams are going to be able to throw some body shots in there, get some good hooks, but it's the team that can take those hits and get back up. That's the team that's going to win this game.
Yes, I agree 100%. And so when we look at this game and we look at Clemson, I was listening to Trevor Maddux on College Football Live or whatever the other day, and they were talking about this game, and he says, well, Clemson is not even in the same wheelhouse as Florida State when it comes to offense. And that might be true. I mean, I don't have any argument with that part. But here's the thing, Trevor Maddux, you played football. I thought you knew this. The Clemson offense doesn't play the Florida State offense. I'll tell you who does, who can stay toe to toe with that Florida State offense. That's that Clemson defense, because the Clemson defense is legit. It's every bit as elite as the Florida State offense is. And so when I look at this game, those two things cancel each other out because they're both going to get their own. They're both elite. They're both going to get their own. And so that's not where this game is going to be won or lost. I'm sorry.
I think the big matchup in this game is going to be Clemson secondary versus the wide receivers.
Agree.
Florida State, Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman. Can we match those guys? And the good thing is we got guys like Wiggins, who's a really tall guy, about 6'2", long arms, that can really probably do a good job on them. So that's going to be the matchup.
Jaden Lucas is 6'2" also.
Yeah, Jaden Lucas is a 6'2" guy. So it's going to be, as far as height is concerned, it's going to be a pretty good matchup. I think with Clemson, you're going to have to really make sure you can control their play action game. You can make sure that you got to stay contained because Jordan Travis can roll out and can make some yards.
I'm glad you brought up Jordan Travis.
Yes,
because
he's a little hurt.
Yes, thank you.
He's a little hurt.
Let's kind of break this down there because everybody's just like nothing happened to Jordan Travis at the end of the first half. But last I saw, this was Jordan Travis after they scored their last touchdown. Left arm's hanging here like there's no feeling at all, and he's over here doing this, high-fiving. And I'm like, that ain't good. Then I talked to some of my sources over at Florida State, and guess who had his arm in a sling after the game? That'd be Jordan Travis. Now, everybody said, well, Will, that's not his throwing arm. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does matter.
It does matter because guess what? That's going to affect the RPO game. And they live by that RPO game.
Yes.
And it affected them in that second half. You saw they could not run the football at all against Boston College. Do you know why? Boston College is like, well, we ain't got to worry about the quarterback running.
Right. And the RPO is, I'm going to have to say, man, if I'm a defensive coach, I'm not sure why defensive coaches don't argue more about RPOs, because it really gives the offense an advantage, and those guys are downfield a lot more than they're supposed to be downfield. That's what, as a defensive player, I don't like the RPO because it's kind of illegal in a lot of ways.
Yeah, with those linemen getting downfield. Yeah.
With those linemen getting downfield, and it kind of gives the linebackers a false read, but it's kind of bull because those guys get to go downfield a little bit, and you shouldn't be able to do that. That's the thing about RPOs that I do not like.
There's Coach Kirkland coming out right there.
This is Coach Kirkland coming out.
Defensive coordinator coming out in y'all. This no, I don't like this stuff now.
Yeah, well, because it's not like it's so clever. It's really kind of against the rules. If you think about it, because the offensive lineman can get downfield a little bit more, pretending it's a run, and because we want touchdowns so much, we have let it get out of control. And it's not fair to the defense.
No, well, there's a lot of things. I mean, as
we know, it is a lot of things that are not, but
like wide receivers can push off.
Next time you watch a game, look at the RPO game and look how much those guys get to go downfield a little bit on a pass play.
Now, I was encouraged with the fact that BC was able to shut Coleman down. He had 0 catches in that game the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw that one play where the DB just made a great play. Of course, that kid, they think he's going to be an NFL type corner. He just knocks the ball away from him. Great play. He had trouble getting separation. And I saw that, and I'm like, all right, BC got physical with them and showed some things that you can do. I think that's what you're going to see Clemson try to do a little bit of. Those Clemson, I think Wes is going to put them on an island because I think he's going to bring pressure, especially knowing Jordan Travis doesn't want to run right now because of that shoulder.
Yeah.
He's going to come. You bring pressure. And one thing I've noticed in both against LSU and Boston College is if you bring pressure up the middle on Jordan Travis, like any quarterback, they get happy feet. He should have had 3 interceptions against LSU, and I don't know how none of those plays got intercepted. But if you know which 3 plays I'm talking about, they should have been intercepted. It was in all the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Florida State got lucky and not a single one got intercepted. He threw a couple passes against BC that I thought were not good passes, not good decision-making. So he can get happy feet when you bring pressure onto him. Clemson proved that last year as they got to him and sacked him like I think 4 or 5 times, and they really brought a lot of pressure to him. I think you can see Clemson do the same thing in this game. And that's the difference is he's not running, where last year he could run. This year, I'm sorry, there's something to that shoulder. I know Florida State's going to say everything's fine and all, but look, that affects their game plan. It affects it big time, and we saw that against BC.
I hope so because, Florida State, like I said, this is the first time in a long time that I looked at this team and like, well, they got a little something.
Mm-hmm.
They're a talented team.
They do. Their offense is good.
Yeah. And you got to say thank God for the transfer portal because they got a bunch of guys in there. So they went free agent heavy. But and this defense, I like the defense too because it's kind of they got the downhill linebackers. They got DBs who will jump the route. And they got that up front guy, especially Verse. Verse is a really good guy. So we got to do a better – Clemson has got to do a great job as far as neutralizing. And I think that's where Clemson wanted to be up-tempo. The running game, the misdirection can really kind of play a part in really hammering Florida State's defense. If Clemson can do that, and they got the backs that can do that, some play action passes in there, and every once in a while, throw over the top. Just try it. You never know. But I think number 6, I can't recall his kid's name for Clemson. I think he can make a difference in this game.
Tyler Brown, the wide receiver?
Yeah, Tyler Brown. Yeah. He can make a difference in this game. So I think if Clemson can get them kind of on their heels a little bit, and I know most people say, well, duh, of course. But some defenses is even more so because some defenses are so aggressive. They want to come downhill so fast that a lot of times, a lot of misdirection stuff can really hurt them. Now they got to get on their heels because they don't know exactly what's happening. That's the kind of defense that you can't just run the regular sweep because they're just going to run it down.
Right.
Matter of fact, Clemson's that kind of defense too. You can't just run a vanilla play because they'll kill it. They really will. Mm-hmm. So you got to get them off balance as much as you possibly can.
Well, I'm kind of glad you switched over to the offense because I think when I look at this matchup from the other side of the ball, I like Clemson up the middle against Florida State. LSU exploited it. Boston College exploited it. They exploited it with the quarterback as well. They have a hard time dealing with a running quarterback, a la what Clemson has in Cade Klubnik, a guy who can get upfield real fast. And, we saw Boston College use that a lot. Their quarterback rushed for 99 yards. He had most of that in the first half, and that allowed him to open up things in the second half. And then at LSU, their quarterback had over 100 yards rushing on him. Their linebackers, Levon, are not that good.
Right.
They're not. That's their weakness on that defense. And their defensive tackles are okay. Their defensive ends are great. They got great defensive ends, but they're not as strong in the middle like Clemson is and their defensive tackles. And their linebackers are just not that good. They get eat up a lot, and they get exposed. I think Clemson can take advantage of that in the running game and also with their tight ends.
Yeah.
This is where Clemson, I think, can make a lot of noise in this game.
Well, I think I think really you can use a tight end as a fullback where you kind of block that defensive end out. You double down, combo on a linebacker, and really have that tight end come up as a lead back like a fullback would normally do in the I formation or near I or far. So I think there's ways that you can attack the middle and be very effective.
Mm-hmm.
Very effective. I think really also a quarterback counter could be effective on them as well. So there's
no doubt in my mind it can be.
There's multiple ways that you can attack this kind of defense because you know their defensive ends are their guys. Mm-hmm. So basically what you can do with those guys is you eliminate them and you attack their weakness. And I think if Clemson can double down, combo on the linebackers, and get up with the running backs that Clemson has, they can make a lot of hay.
They can. And I think that's the big part. So, and Clemson's strength in their offensive line is up the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's where their experienced players are at. Walker Parks will be back in this game. So he sat out last week so he can get a little healthy. He's going to be back and ready to go. Obviously, they got one of the better centers in the ACC. And, you know, Marcus Tate's come a long way from where he was a year ago at left guard. So the strength of that offensive line is in the middle, and it's going to get better. And why risk your quarterback having to deal with those defensive ends that they got, those unbelievable two defensive ends that both guys are going to be top 10 picks when it's all said and done. I mean,
and when you got defensive ends like that, you can't slide one way or the other.
Mm-mm.
Because if you do, then you'll leave somebody one-on-one. Those guys can both rush the passer. So you take what they don't do well. They can't really stop the run. They're not that great up the middle. Man, exploit it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Then, and then when they bring somebody, now, we're going to have to bring another guy in the box a little bit. Now, hey, let's go over the top. Sometimes it's not always that difficult.
Exactly.
It really is. I think sometimes they're trying to do too much.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes really like, who's that fish on their team that's not that good?
And
who's the guy that we can exploit and get after, and let's exploit that guy.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I like Clemson did last week was they formationed Florida Atlantic to death, and they did that intentionally because they wanted Florida State to see these looks.
Yeah, now you got to prepare for everything.
Yeah, you got to prepare for all these looks, even though they probably just ran a counter out of it. That's all they did. You know,
it's window dressing, really.
That's all it is window dressing.
Yeah.
But they ran a lot of something I hadn't really seen much of, but they ran a lot of 20, which for people out there to understand, that's two running backs, no tight ends.
Right.
And I was sitting there like, hold on a second. They're going two backs and no tight ends on the field at all. You had three wide receivers. Like, they're like, okay, that's the look you don't see too much of, you know, and so you got skill players everywhere when you do that. Now, they did come out and they showed some 21, saw that a few times, a lot of 12 personnel as well, but they showed that 20 personnel, and they showed it quite a few times, and they would do it with a little jumbo, I guess, what do you call those little, they had three wide receiver stacks, I guess stacks out there.
I call them bunch.
Yeah, so the little bunch formations. So, you know, that it was very, very confusing. Now, they didn't do anything flashy with it. They just showed it, and they run a counter inside, or they run a power inside with it. But, you know, that's enough to show Florida State, okay, what are you going to do with it? Because now you're making those safeties and those linebackers and everything, they all have to draw to it. So that allows you to do things up inside, where Clemson, I think, can take advantage. So they were showing a lot of stuff just to get Florida State looking at it, like you said, so they have to prepare. We're going to talk about that game here in a second in our pick six when we get to that here in just a second. So, Levon, and we'll move on over to our pick six segment, if you will. So we got several games, big games. Clemson, Florida State is one of them. I'll save that for later. I don't want to say that's going to be our last game, but there's a lot of big games, I think. First of all, one here that I want to talk about because it's a big game in the sense of the guy used to coach here and his team's playing well. It's Oklahoma and Brent Venables, and they go on the road to play Cincinnati. That is a 3:30 kickoff. Noon kickoff on Fox. Number 16 Oklahoma at Cincinnati. Cincinnati got a big win against Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago, but then last week didn't look very good at all. Oklahoma's rolling. They're scoring 60 points on people and stuff like this. Give me your thoughts on what Brent Venables, the former Clemson defense coordinator, is doing up there in his second year at Oklahoma.
Well, if you know Brent Venables like me and Will know Brent is a really good coach, especially on the defensive side of the ball. He got his offense rolling, so I'm going to say that Oklahoma's going to cover in this game.
Yeah, I think so too, because Cincinnati's struggling. It's minus 14.5 for Oklahoma. Cincinnati's just struggling right now. They're 2-1, but they beat a bad Pittsburgh team, and I hate to say that because I thought Pittsburgh was going to be pretty good this year, but Pittsburgh right now, they've lost to Cincinnati. Last week, they couldn't even score against West Virginia. I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh right now. They can't run the ball with any consistency. And I thought they were going to be better than this because I thought they had the best offensive line in the ACC, but they've proven me wrong on that one.
Right.
I don't understand it. I don't know what's going on with Pat Narduzzi, but he's got to get that thing turned around quickly.
No question.
So we'll see there. But anyway, so you're going to take Oklahoma minus the 14.5. I'm with you on that. As well. I'm going to take Oklahoma minus the 14.5 as well. Big game on the West Coast. Coach Prime in Colorado, 3-0, going to number 10 Oregon, taking on Bo Nix and the Ducks. Bo Nix, the guy who used to be at Auburn, now he's a Heisman Trophy candidate at Oregon. How about that?
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it's nuts, man. It's nuts. Oregon, though, check this line out. This Dion's loving this. Oregon is a 21-point favorite in this game. 3:30 on ABC. What do you think is going to happen here?
As much as I like what Dion is doing over there in Colorado and the excitement and the Showtime Laker atmosphere that they have, I think this game is not going to be that close. I'm going to take Oregon.
Are you doing this because Hunter's not going to play, the kid, the guy who goes both ways?
Not so much. I'm really taking it more because I think that although Colorado has some really good skill guys as far as wide receivers are concerned, they got a speedy running back. Their quarterback is accurate and can make some throws and has the heart of a lion. It's the defensive line of Colorado that I don't like. It's not that I don't like them. I just don't like that they don't really have a lot of size.
Yeah.
I think they're a couple players away from being really a team that can challenge all the time.
Right.
And I think what Oregon is going to do is going to line up and they're just going to smash them. They're going to smash them all game long until they give out. That's what I see from looking at last week's game. Those guys are quick. They fly around. They give great effort. They just don't really have the size. I think Oregon's just going to just run downhill all game long on them.
Okay.
And I think they're going to wear them down. And I think after a while, man, it's going to be probably. I'm looking at Oregon to cover.
Wow. So you're going to take Oregon minus the 21.
I'm taking Oregon on that. So.
All right. Well, I hear you, and I do think Oregon's going to win the game. Yeah, and I think they'll win by a couple touchdowns.
Yeah.
But that 21's a big line to me. And this is a Colorado team that went to TCU, a packed house at TCU, and they played well. Now, granted, Oregon's better than TCU, yes. And it's going to be a great atmosphere up there in Oregon. They're going to be loud. And, that's one of the, that place is loud. It's a difficult place to go play in. But I think Dion will have his team ready for that. That's not what's going to cause them to lose this game. So with that, I think they'll come in with a little bit of fight, a little chip on their shoulder. He plays that as good as anybody we know, better than Dabo Swinney and Kirby Smart, if you want to say. And so I think I think Colorado won't win the game, but I think they'll cover. So give me Colorado plus the 21 on that one. All right. So our next game, This one, I don't know what to do. I really don't, Levon. We got number 15, Ole Miss, 3-0, at number 13, Alabama, 2-1. For the first time in, I don't know, 10 years, Alabama fell out of the top 10.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's like 187 weeks or something. Second longest run in the history in college football history, AP poll history. By the way, for those people that need to know, Clemson's third in that. Clemson was 95 straight weeks before they fell out of the top 10 a few years ago. So anyway, but here it is, 3:30 kickoff on CBS. Alabama, this is what's crazy about this line. Remember, Alabama just went to South Florida and almost lost. It was 3-3 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so Alabama is a 7-point favorite against the Ole Miss team who's rolling over everybody. I mean, they've been rolling over everybody, including a very good Tulane team. I'm a little surprised that line is that high because Alabama hasn't played well. I don't know what Vegas is looking at here, but Alabama 7-point favorite. What do you think about this one?
Man, if you look at Alabama and what I think we kind of look at the crimson and the white, and we always assume that they're going to dominate.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the college football that I'm falling in love with. I think that now you got teams that really have a chance because there's a lot more parity in the league, which I think is going to make college football so fun to watch. So in that case, I'm with you, Will. I think 7 points is a little bit too much. I'm taking Ole Miss.
Ole Miss plus the 7.
Yep.
Me and you on the same page on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I like this Ole Miss offense. I think they can score. I think they're going to put pressure on I think it's still a very good Alabama defense.
Oh, no question.
But I think they can put pressure on them like Tennessee did. Now, I don't think they're going to beat it because you're telling me Alabama's going to lose 2 straight home games. I don't think that's happening because, they lost to Texas a few weeks ago. But I think I'm with you. I don't think Ole Miss can cover that 7 points. That 7 points seems high to me. Right.
And a lot of times you really don't know. But I really think Alabama's struggling at the quarterback position.
They're bad. Now they're going to start the kid who started against Texas.
Yeah.
They're going to start him again. But you're playing musical chairs with your quarterbacks.
You're playing musical chairs, and nowadays he can't throw it down the field very well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got a trigger man who can't really be accurate, then you're in trouble. And that could be possibly the case. And like you said, I mean, they can score points. They can. So can you? I mean, I wouldn't say Alabama is going to lose, but I don't know. It's going to be close.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to take Ole Miss in the 7, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ole Miss wins it straight up.
I wouldn't be either.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
All right, next game, another ranked game. Former Clemson quarterback DJ Uiagalelei and number 14, Oregon State. 7 o'clock kickoff on Fox at Washington State, number 21 in the country. Oregon State is a 3-point favorite. So check this out. A home team is a 3-point dog. We got another pick coming here in just a second. Well, that's the same thing.
Yes.
A home team is a 3-point dog. That usually bodes well for the home team in that case. Yeah. What do you think?
Oh, I am going to. I like DJ. I'm glad he's doing well, but I'm going to take Washington State on this one.
Mm-hmm. I just said 3 points that's hard.
That's super hard. Yeah, so I'm going to take Washington State on this one.
Yeah,
I don't know really who Oregon State hasn't really played much of anybody these first 3 games.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
I think with DJ is when DJ gets tested, that's I kind of wonder what kind of quarterback he is because there's no doubt DJ has a good arm, really an exceptional arm.
Yes,
he can sling it. There's no question. But it's not about can he throw it far or hard or high.
It's about when you use that arm.
How you use the arm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has always been the issue with DJ. And I think it's going to be the issue as well. If he doesn't start off well, sometimes DJ struggles.
DJ gets on his own head. Yep.
When it doesn't start out as well as he anticipated, then he struggles. And that's the one thing about visuals. That's the one thing about when you visualize it doesn't always go exactly the way you vision it. So
and how you going to respond to that?
So can you adapt to that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even better. Yeah.
Right. So because a lot of guys, it's going to be like this, it's going to be like that. But what if it isn't?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I didn't do a whole lot of visualization. I just kind of went in there and said, I'm going to play my butt off. I'm going to go out there and react, trust my eyes. So I kind of wonder sometimes DJ when he plays in a really tough game that doesn't go exactly the way he wants, then what kind of player he's going to be. And I think that's the question mark about DJ. But I'm glad he's playing well.
Yeah, I'm glad he's playing well too, and I'm glad he's having success. I'm with you at the same time though. This line at 3 is just that's that nervous line. Like if I was betting, I wouldn't take this game because of that. Right. That's a dangerous number in my opinion. So I'm going to go Washington State minus plus the 3.5 as well on this one. So we're both in agreement there. The only one we've differed so far on is Colorado. Last game, noon kickoff at Death Valley.
At Death Valley.
Number 4 Florida State at unranked Clemson. What?
Yeah, man.
And then I heard somebody say the other day, well, Clemson hasn't played well. Well, obviously you haven't watched the last 2 games. I mean, they only won by 49 points and 38 4 points.
And let's be honest with the Duke game. I mean, you take away one of those fumbles.
It's a different game.
It's a different ballgame.
Yeah. You take away especially that one at the end.
Yeah. And sometimes as fans and analysts and podcasters, we don't always have the right perspective. Mm-hmm. And that's why you have these head coaches that get paid a lot because they're really good as far as leadership is concerned.
Right.
And they know how to lead after it doesn't go as well. We as fans, we play checkers. And hopefully your coach is playing checkers.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the media plays Chinese checkers, and me being one. I really do. I think so because why Clemson is ranked is just beyond me because you can't tell me Clemson's not one of the top 25 teams in the country. If you think Alabama is better than Clemson, then you haven't been watching college football. Because right. Alabama they got issues in worse places than Clemson does, and you got them ranked 13th. And everybody's gonna say, "Well, Alabama, their loss was to Texas. Clemson's was to Duke. Duke's a pretty doggone good football team. If you haven't noticed,
if you got to look at Duke. Duke is definitely a different team. I know the history of it, and they look at the history of it, and they look at the ACC, and automatically they have thoughts.
Right.
But I think this game is a show up game. It really is. I think that line is scary.
Minus 2.5, yeah.
That's a scary line. So
if I'm a bet man, I'm not touching it.
Yeah, I don't want to touch it myself. I know. But can I just go straight up on this one?
Yeah, go straight up on this one, man.
Thank you. If I go straight up on this one, I think that I really feel that Florida State is probably going to end up winning this game.
Wow.
I don't want
why Levon? What's the final verdict that brings you that conclusion?
Oh man, I think Florida State now has enough playmakers, and they have the quarterback Jordan Travis that I don't know if he's going to make mistakes. But the thing is, too, though, that arm Jordan Travis is hurt, so I don't know if I'm making the right decision on this one. But I'm going to say Florida State wins.
He's waddling, folks.
I'm definitely waddling.
He doesn't
it's
know.
Funny because you always talk about how good I am at this.
You are.
I hate this. I really, because I've been there so many times as a player and a coach, and I know what happens in games. And you never know sometimes, Yeah. So I really believe that it almost seems like, is it time for Florida State to do it? Is it that time? We'll see, though. We'll see. But, of course, all my people out there at Clemson, I want the Tigers to win.
Oh, he's wearing his orange, folks. Don't you worry.
Trust me, the orange is inside my body.
Yes.
But as a podcaster on the #1 show at Bleav Network, I gotta kind of try to be professional and say that, and I'm trying not to follow that majority says. The majority rules.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna switch up. I'm gonna switch up. Give me Clemson and points.
Give you Clemson. All right. Go
Yes.
Clemson plus
Yeah.
the 3 and plus the 2.5.
I almost lost my mind. Yes.
I love it, man. I didn't even talk you into it. You talked yourself into it. That's
Well,
the best
you know
thing.
what it is though, because a lot of times in sports, it's the majority rules all the time.
Yeah.
And I will hope to think that me and you are one of the last individual thinkers.
Yeah.
That we think we bring something to the table, we bring out evidence, and we kind of just think on our own.
For people to know,
I felt like I was going with the majority on this because nobody wants to be wrong, and everybody wants to. Yeah, we picked Alabama, we picked Clemson, and I just kind of like you know what? They are playing at home. Jordan Travis is hurt. We have beaten them the last 7 years. So I'm going to take Clemson the points. Yeah.
And so people know, me and Levon have been on this podcast, and we've picked against Clemson in big games. And we were right sometimes, and we've been wrong sometimes, but we've done it. So we're not afraid to go against the grain and pick against Clemson. I cover Clemson, and I cover it as objectively as I always have as a reporter. I went to journalism school. I'm trained to look at things objectively. And I really do look at it. And yes, my background, my family's Clemson grads and stuff like that, it's in there. It is in my blood too. But at the same time, I'm still going to do it the right way and look at things objectively because that's what I was trained to do and how to do my job. And Levon, he's played the game. So he knows it way more than I do or any of you guys do. So, it is what it is. And played it and coached it. And so we're going to try to give you the best opinion we can.
No question about it.
And what you do with it, that's fine. But we're just going to give you what we think. And it doesn't mean we're going to be right. With that said, here's the college football part of me. Okay,
Thanks,
first of all, I'm still angry at Norvell. I'm still angry because I went all the way to Tallahassee during the COVID year. I got a hotel. I had to stay in a hotel with all the COVID restrictions going on. That sucks by itself. It's like you go to a hotel and you can't even talk to anybody. It's like, it's weird. It's a weird feeling. And then so I do all that. Then I go, I'm going to go to a game where there's going to be nobody in the stands again. But, I'm going to be in the press box. It was going to be weird to see that stadium. I did that at Virginia Tech, by the way. That was the weirdest feeling in the world. So I check out of my hotel at 8:45 in the morning. I get in my car. I'm driving to the stadium because it's a noon kickoff like this year's game is. And Florida State cancels the game. That's right. Florida State canceled the game.
Yes.
And I'm mad at Mike Norvell because Clemson said, hey, we'll play it later in the day. We'll take some more tests and play it later in the day. No, we won't do that. Because Clemson knew they were going to pass because Clemson did ACC protocol. They went exactly how the ACC had told them to do things. Yes, a player was sick that was on the plane ride, but he was separated from the team. He wasn't near the players. He was totally separated, isolated from the team on that plane. And because the news came that he had it, so they isolated him, and they did everything. He didn't even get off the plane. The plane flew right back with one guy and a trainer back to Clemson. The kid never even got off the plane. Okay, Clemson did everything the ACC asked them to do, that their protocols say do. And Florida State didn't want to play the game. And then,
basically it.
Yes. And then Clemson said, hey, we'll stay and play on Sunday. Florida State said no. Clemson said, well, we'll stay and play on Monday.
No,
we don't want to do that either. So Clemson did everything they could to play that game. Mike Norvell and Florida State did everything they can not to play that game. And the reason why he didn't want to play that game was because, A, Trevor Lawrence was coming back off the COVID game where he didn't get to play his Notre Dame, and Clemson had lost. And Clemson was ready to just pound on somebody. And Florida State's Jordan Travis was like 70% chance of, 70% injured, like maybe really, really good chance he wasn't going to play. They were going to have to start a walk-on third-string quarterback. And that's why Florida State didn't play Clemson that game. And you want to know what the funny thing was about this whole story, and I hope every Florida State fan out there is listening to it, is Florida State got COVID the next week and Clemson didn't.
Right.
And so the team that was worried about getting COVID from the team that somebody had it that team that somebody supposedly had it didn't even get COVID, and the team that did canceled the game that didn't get COVID. They got it the next week and couldn't play that next game because of COVID. So I call that irony, and I'm gonna call this game irony. And Clemson's gonna win this game because the football guys are gonna give it to Clemson. Because I'm just gonna go for that first of all, because you didn't give Clemson the game they should have won.
We owe her.
You took it away. So basically, you owe Clemson a win. Yes. Florida State. And this is the one where you think you got a chance to come win it, and you should probably, and you got your best team you've had in years.
This is the best team. Yeah.
Best team since 2016, no doubt. Guess what? You're not winning it. And that's one reason you're not winning it. Here's the second reason. Because if Clemson takes care of the football, and if Clemson takes advantages of its red zone opportunities, something they didn't do against Duke, and it cost them a game, something LSU didn't do very good against you guys, because, by the way, Florida State, you gave up 300 total yards in the first half to LSU. You couldn't stop a nosebleed in that game. LSU was pounding you, but they couldn't get the ball in the end zone. And they allowed you to stay in the game in the first half. And then, granted, I give you credit. You took advantage of their mistakes in the second half, and you put the game away. Give you credit for that. But you weren't as dominant as you looked in that game, because I watched that first half. I saw LSU pounding you. I saw Jordan Travis look like a scared puppy and throwing up little lollipops up in the air that should have been intercepted. You got it lucky. You got away with that stuff. You ain't getting lucky this time in Death Valley. It's not happening. Clemson's going to bring the heat. They're going to bring the pressure. Your team's going to feel it. Clemson's going to win this game because they're going to take care of the football, and they're going to score when they get their scoring opportunities. Dabo Swinney's going to make sure this game doesn't come down to a field goal kicker. Clemson wins this game, Levon, 31, Florida State 17.
I hear you. Preach, preacher, preach. That game, we said that Florida State was like that really pretty girl that, you're like, are we still on for tonight? Yes.
So anyway, I'm a little fired up because Mike Norvell's I'm still mad. I'm still mad about 2020 because Levon, I tell people the rest of that story. So I end up, because of the cancellation, I had to go find out what happened and everything. So I go back to the hotel. I work till about 3:00 in the afternoon. I miss lunch. I don't get no lunch or nothing. I'm working through because I'm trying to get the stories. And I wrote like maybe 500 stories, I think, in that. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but I wrote a lot of stories off information I found out. And then I leave. I go get something to eat and I leave. And I get stuck in a traffic accident. And first of all, my traffic accident wasn't bad as the people that had to experience it and their families. But there was an accident. It was so bad they had to shut down both sides of the interstate. So I was basically in a parking lot for like 2 hours on I-75 in middle Georgia. And I didn't get home till 1 a.m. that night. And so am I bitter? Am I mad at Mike Norvell? Yes, I am. And I have every right to be. So anyway, that's going to do it for our picks. So by the way, in case you're wondering, Levon picked Oklahoma minus 14.5. He picked Oregon minus 21.5. He took Oregon minus the 21 against Colorado. He took Ole Miss plus the 7 against Alabama. Washington State, he took plus 3 there in their game. And then he took against Oregon State, and then he took Clemson plus the 2.5 against Florida State. So there's Levon's picks. He's usually pretty good, guys. I mean, he's like 85% all time. I mean, it's ridiculous. I
don't even really like doing it.
And I keep up with this stuff. So I'm telling you, he's really good with this. So anyway, I want to get to our picks before we get out of here, Levon. Go to our segment where we let the extra point segment. And so I got one question from Kurt over there on Facebook. He says, is Levon coaching anywhere? I know this answer, but Levon, I'll let you answer it.
No, not at this time. I'm not coaching. I do a lot of football camps during the wintertime around February to usually June. And so that's a good way for me to keep up with the game. And believe it or not, I watch a lot of film still yet, even though I don't really coach anywhere or whatever. I'm just really always intrigued about what people are doing out there and why they're doing it, and just try to keep a growth mindset. So no, I am not coaching at this time.
All right, and then this is more of a statement, but I'm gonna read it to you. Andre Bowers over on YouTube says, Levon, Kirkland, and Terry Allen made me a Tiger for life. Levon is the greatest linebacker in Clemson history. Salute, big guy. I agree with you,
That's
Andre.
funny because me and Anthony Simmons used to have this argument all the time when I played in Seattle. Who was the best linebacker? He thought he was, but I told him overall that I was the best linebacker.
Now, did you ask Jeff Davis his opinion?
I haven't had Jeff Davis, and I think Jeff has a national championship over me.
Yeah, that's why I said.
But as far as linebackers are concerned, I don't know. I think I was a little better.
Hey, man, I'm taking 44 and I'm taking 99. I love 45. Don't get me wrong. I love 45, but I'm gonna take 44 and 99 all day long.
What do you think about one of my friends texted me last night and was like, this you know who texted me last night? You remember Larry Centers?
Yeah.
The running back, fullback from the Cardinals. Really good player. Played with the Redskins, or what they call the Commanders now. He texted me and said, man, nobody wore that little number 99 like you did for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
There you go.
I tend to agree with him on that.
No, dude, I totally agree with him on that. 99 is your number, and when somebody wears it, I'm like, you better do it justice, and Britt Kiesel, he wore it. He did it justice. And what's his name's wearing it now, and he got a big sack last night, and the Steelers, and I was proud to see that. I was like, all right, if you're going to be 99, make sure you understand what you're wearing. Yeah. Landis Button asked, how do you feel about Clemson's wide receivers and the play of quarterback Cade Klubnik going into this game?
Well, I think still young. You got to realize that Klubnik is still only his fourth start. It's a new system as well. So sometimes it takes you a little while to get there. We have been spoiled as Clemson fans because we've had Tides, we've had Deshaun and Trevor Lawrence. Mm-hmm. And we've had some receivers that basically just go get the ball.
Right.
So it's still taking a little time, but I see some promise, actually. I really do.
I'll answer this question from Brad Woods over on Facebook. He says he wonders if, first of all, has Dabo named White as the starter, kicker, and is Swanson going to be used on field goals too? So to answer both those questions, first of all, yes, he did say that White's would be the starter kicking today in the press conference. I don't think he meant to say it, but it did come out. And as we kept poking him and asking questions, and so yes, he's going to start and be the kicker. And then Adam Swanson, who's the punter. That's why you're asking that. Dabo and I said earlier, he could kick. For what we know right now, they really want Swanson to focus on being just the punter. And so if it goes bad again, maybe you could see Swanson kicking. But let's hope you don't see Swanson. If you see Swanson, that means it ain't going well for the Tigers at place kicking.
Yeah.
So let's hope that's not the case. So Dabo bringing a guy asked Dabo. This is Scott Millsap on Facebook. Dabo's bringing Whites back to make field goals. Sure sounds like the staff doesn't see a quick fix for getting gun kicking in his confidence. We kind of talked about this earlier, Levon, but there is something to that. I think he's right on that. It doesn't sound like they're confident right now in gun right now getting fixed. Yeah.
I mean, if they were confident, they would say like, well, no. He's going to continue to be our kicker. We believe in him. He's going to kick. Mm-hmm. But they're probably like, man, he really got the ips real bad. He really, he got a blockage there that won't help him make field goals. When a kid has a leg like that, it's probably just something mentally that he's just can't get over real quick. And the coaches, that's their job to see that and say, listen, coach, we may need to go to another direction.
Right.
So it's clear. I mean, they wouldn't be doing it otherwise. Why would they do it? Why would they bring in a kicker if they're confident in the kicker they got now? They're not.
They're not.
So they're bringing in the kicker.
Yep, makes sense. So, well, hey, look, first of all, we appreciate all you guys watching and listening.
We do.
If you're watching us on YouTube, please give us a like. We definitely appreciate that. And leave a comment below. If you're watching us on Facebook, please do the same. Also on Twitter and stuff like that. If you got questions and stuff, Twitter doesn't allow us to see them during the show, but I'll try to go back and answer those as we go along. But we do appreciate you guys watching us there as well. Want to give a shout out to our sponsors again, the Clemson Insider, the most complete coverage of Clemson athletics and recruiting. Also want to say thanks to Tip It Back Sports Grill, the place to be to watch all your college football action this season. Tip It Back Sports Grill is located at 215 Pelham Road. Go check them out. Steeler fans on here that are watching me and Levon, that's the place to go. It's the Steelers bar in our area, so you need to go check them out on Sundays if you're watching the Steelers, even if we look as bad as we did last night on offense. Yes. Anyway, don't want to get down that road. And then also want to thank the folks at betonline.ag, the place to be for all your sports betting needs. So go over and check those guys out too at betonline.ag. So for Levon Kirkland, I'm Will Vandervort. Enjoy the games this weekend. Enjoy the Tigers, Florida State. We'll talk to you next time on Bleav in Clemson Football with Levon Kirkland.